Progress is about more than the passage of time.
For me, progress is change, and that change should be based upon what I consider justice. A lot of injustices have not been addressed. I'd like to see these injustices addressed.
Progress is
About people being allowed to have the benefit of the constitutional rights that should be enjoyed by all people. And I will add this, progress is also giving every person an opportunity to succeed on their merits or fail on their demerits. There are some people who are given the opportunities to succeed simply because of who they are. And I think that in a meritocracy, what you are capable of doing is of paramount importance.
Congressman Al Green of Houston, one of our big heroes of late. Thanks for all you do, sir. It's Tuesday, March 18th, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. It feels like a critical landmark moment in a continued assault on reproductive freedom in Texas. Eleanor Klibanoff at the Texas Tribune says two people in Houston, midwife Maria Margarita Rojas and Jose Ley, her employee, have been arrested and charged with performing illegal abortions at a Houston area health clinic, representing the first criminal charges brought under Texas's near total ban on abortion. These are believed also to be the first arrests in the United States of individual healthcare providers following the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Attorney General Ken Paxton's office says the network of clinics operated by Rojas in Waller, Cypress, and Spring, quote, unlawfully employed unlicensed individuals who falsely presented themselves as licensed medical professionals, unquote, and has charged Rojas and Ley with practicing medicine without a license and performing illegal abortions. The state plans to go after these two very aggressively, recommending $1 million bonds for each. Those bonds were set by a Waller County judge at $500,000 for the abortion-related charges and $200,000 for the charges related to medical licensing. Texas law does not allow for the person who terminated their pregnancy to be prosecuted. Rather, healthcare providers are targeted. One associate of Rojas, another midwife who runs a birth center in Tomball, where Rojas worked part-time, expressed disbelief at the situation, describing Rojas as a devout Catholic dedicated to providing vital health care to a primarily Spanish-speaking low-income community, adding, quote, I've known her for 8 years, and I've never heard her talk about anything like that. I just can't picture Maria being involved in something like this, unquote. Ellie Quinlan Hodling at the New Republic elaborates that these defendants under Texas law could face life in prison. This is all, of course, a consequence of Texas elections, as we know, because in general, most Americans support abortion access. In a 2023 Gallup poll, only 12% of surveyed Americans believe that abortion should be illegal in all circumstances, while the vast majority believe that it should be legal in the first trimester of pregnancy, another situation we cannot allow to become the new normal. Close attention needs to be paid to the Maria Rojas case through its conclusion. To immigration, and yet another of those instances that demands our attention and resistance, the resuming of immigrant family detention policies by the Trump administration right here in Texas. Jasmine Ulloa and Miriam Jordan at the New York Times write that families have begun to arrive at a detention facility in Karnes County, just southeast of San Antonio, with immigration lawyers expecting more to follow. A second detention center in Dilley, just southwest of San Antonio, is also being readied for families. Both of these are being set up to hold thousands of people, with multiple families held in individual detention cells. Family detention is being used by the Trump deportation operation quite literally as a terror tactic, hoping that it will instill fear in parents to dissuade them from bringing their kids over the border. However, this also raises the likelihood of established but undocumented families whose children are American citizens and have never seen their parents' native countries ending up in these cells. Human rights organizations, legal experts, and religious groups have concluded that family detention is both inhumane and ineffective and is prone to due process violations, insufficient medical care, and sexual abuse. To the ledge where the public school funding bill HB 2, being touted by its Republican backers as historic, is being seen as insufficient by public education advocates. Jack Fink at CBS News Texas says the bill earmarks $9 billion in new public school spending, which seems like a big number until you talk to Bob Popinski at Raise Your Hand, Texas, who calls it a great start considering the goose egg public schools got out of the last session, as Governor Abbott held public school funding hostage over private school vouchers, but also points out that it's less than half of what our public schools actually need. Popinski says, quote, "We've seen a 22% increase in inflation. We need about $9.8 billion per year just to maintain the same purchasing power school districts had in 2019. Over a 2-year budget cycle, that means we need about $20 billion, unquote." Republican Representative Brad Buckley of Salado, who's behind HB 2, acknowledges that inflation has hit our schools just as hard as everything else, but fails to acknowledge that his bill falls way short. Also at the ledge, another bill that shows crystal clear that Republicans at the Capitol are not there to back up the little guy. Destiny Fuller at Fox San Antonio writes about House Bill 4806, authored by Republican Representative Greg Bonin of Friendswood, which would place severe limits on payouts resulting from injury lawsuits by establishing a cap on medical and personal damages when filing an insurance claim. Fuller talked to Tony Garza Vale, who works for the well-known Gomez law firm in San Antonio. He says of the bill that it, quote, "prevents wrongfully harmed people from obtaining fair compensation, essentially a gift to the liability insurance companies that usually pay those settlements," unquote. Adding that the outcome of this legislation would be especially bad for lower-income people for whom legal settlements generally end up going to pay medical bills. More details in the link in the show notes. An important read from Progress Texas on the impending election of a new chair for the Texas Democratic Party. Advocacy associate Tatum Owens calls it the most important election you don't know about. And even if you do know about it, you still don't get to vote in it directly. The state party chair will be picked by the members of the State Democratic Executive Committee, or SDEC, who will vote by ranked choice on March 29th, next week. Your influence and opinion in the matter goes to your SDC member. And if you know who that is, congratulations. You're among the probably 1% of the wonkiest people listening to this podcast. But if not, never fear. See the link in the show notes for Tatum's article and see the link there to find out who to contact to let them know who you think should be the next chair of the Texas Democratic Party. And finally today, Resistance in Aggie Land. Jacob Wildman at KCEN TV in Temple says the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, or FIRE, whose representatives we've featured on multiple podcasts here, has filed a lawsuit on behalf of the Texas A&M Queer Empowerment Council to block a policy that would ban drag performances on Texas A&M University System campuses. This is the group that hosts the annual Draggyland event, the sixth of which was scheduled for next Thursday, March 27th. Fire attorney Adam Steinbaugh said in a statement, quote, "The First Amendment protects the freedom of expression, and make no mistake, drag is expression. Texas A&M can't banish student-funded, student-organized drag performances from campus simply because they offend administrators. If drag offends you, don't buy a ticket," unquote, and amen. Meanwhile, in Austin, at the historically much more liberal University of Texas, Lily Kempner at the Austin American-Statesman says UT System Chairman Kevin Eltife has affirmed that the campuses he oversees will also not allow drag shows, towing the line set by an executive order from Donald Trump. Kempner notes here that despite Trump's bluster, there is no current federal or state executive order explicitly banning drag shows. These administrators are complying in advance. March is Women's History Month, and the aforementioned Progress Texas Advocacy Associate Tatum Owens has put together a great rundown in celebration of the enormous breakthroughs Texas women have accomplished, as well as an analysis of why Texas remains among the worst states for women to live in. Plus a full list of Women's History Month events happening across the state all this month. See that list at progresstexas.org. Our mission at Progress Texas is to counter the conservative disinformation machine, but they far outmatch us in funding. Oil and tech billionaires and religious right-wing activist groups spend a lot of money keeping their audiences in the dark. If you've come to appreciate the light that we shine on important political news in Texas on a daily, ongoing basis, please know that our regular, everyday listeners, just like you, form a key component of our funding, and we could use your support as a monthly contributor. No amount is too small. Go to progresstexas.org/donate. Thanks to Jeffrey Snyder, Yasmin Simon, and John Cotter, all of whom are on the team. We appreciate all of y'all. San Antonio friends, Progress Texas is Alamo City bound for the first time in a while for a live podcast taping and fundraising party on Tuesday, May the 6th. We look forward to a long overdue and fun get-together with y'all at our Party for Progress. Mark that date, Tuesday, May 6th and keep it here for more details. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning.